Good morning. Today is the 4th day of January 2026, and today I felt like reading to you Mount Transfiguration. Let's go. Today's Bible lesson will be in Matthew 17, verses 1 through 8, Mark chapter 9, verses 2 through 8, and Luke chapter 9, verses 28 through 36. Before I start, what does transfiguration mean? Mountain, everybody knows what a mountain is, right? It's a high place. Strongholds may have a high place, right? The Lord also has a mountain. His is known from heaven, Mount Zion. So Mount Transfiguration. What does trans mean? Well, it originates from Latin, meaning across. From Latin origin, it means across. And then from the dictionary, it says that trans would mean beyond or to the other side of. So we all know what transactions mean. When you make a transaction, you cross on the action of something else. You go beyond the action of. You make a transaction. To transfer, to be given over from here to there. Transferred, transformer, transform, transit. Transit means to drive, to go from one point to the other, like to go to the other side of. Translate, from one to the other, from one language to another language, or translated. Could have been, it's interesting because when they say that Enoch was translated, to me that looks like the book of Enoch was translated. The book. When you translate words, transportation is a difference. He transported from one place to the other. He went from one place. But this says translated. The book of Enoch was translated. Enoch lived 365 and he was translated. He was not. That one, I'd have to study more into that. And then, of course, we've heard our modern transgender. Trans and gender. Gender being only two sex, male or female, right? And then trans meaning to go beyond or across or to the other side of something. In this case, the dictionary says that transgender is an internal sense of gender identity. An internal sense of gender identity. Transgender could also represent an outternal identity of a gender. We see a lot of times a transgender person and we say it doesn't make sense. Well, it's kind of like the book of Enoch. When I read he was translated, Enoch was translated. What was in Enoch like a book that was translated into another language? When you translate something, usually to me that means in language perspective and wording. Transportation is to go from one place to another, and he was not. But it says that Enoch was translated. So, now I'm going to start from Matthew chapter 17, Mark chapter 9, and Luke chapter 9. Mount Transfiguration. So what is a fig? A fig, everybody knows the fig is a fruit, right? It's a pear-shaped, it's got like dark meat and a lot of seeds. It's also known kind of like the tree of life, and it's also known as what Adam and Eve were covering their shame, the big fig leaves. Spiritually, a fig means a spiritual appearance. So, that goes into Mount Transfiguration, fig, the appearance of one. The figs, as a tree of life, could represent this in symbolism: abundance, prosperity, peace, fertility, wisdom, and spiritual enlightenment. So now, when we go into other words, that's what a fig is. What about figuration, like Mount Transfiguration? Where does that come from? What's it mean? Well, when you have a figuration of something, it's an allegorical representation. Figurative, having a definite particular shape or form. So now when we take the word Mount Transfiguration, knowing it could have several different looks, but when we put trans, it means across. It originates from Latin, and it means to go across or beyond or to the other side. Figuration would just mean having a definite particular shape or form. So when you take the symbolism of a fig, it's abundance, prosperity, peace, fertility, wisdom. That right there to me symbolizes femininity in many ways. Now, when you put transfiguration and you take it in the term of Jesus on Mount Transfiguration, which I'm about to start reading, there was something about Jesus that was changed in a particular shape or form. So, he was spiritually enlightened, and the witnesses below saw. All right. So this is from the King James. Mount Transfiguration, Matthew chapter 17, verses 1 through 8. After 6 days, Jesus takes Peter and James and John, his brother, and brings them up to a high mountain apart, and was transfigured before them, and his face did shine as the sun, and his raiment was white as light. And behold, there appeared unto them Moses and Elijah, talking with him. Then answered Peter and said unto Jesus, Lord, is it good for us to be here? If you will, let us make here 3 tabernacles, one for you, one for Moses, and one for Elijah. And if you were to say Moses, Jesus, and Elijah, whichever order, and you look up in Gematria, that would be 3 different tabernacles. You could divide that by 3 and probably get something out of this as well. While he yet spake, behold, a bright cloud overshadowed them. So they're already shining as bright as the sun. But now here comes a cloud, and it's not just a cloud, but it's bright. It's more bright than what they already are. A cloud comes, and now a glory cloud just basically overtakes them. It overshadowed them. Behold, the voice out of the cloud which said, This is my beloved Son, in whom I'm well pleased. Hear what he has to say. When the disciples heard it, they fell on their face, and they were sore afraid. And Jesus came and touched them and said, "Arise, do not be afraid." And when they had lifted up their eyes, and they saw no man save Jesus only, and they came down from the mountain, Jesus charged them, saying, "Tell the vision to no man until the Son of Man be risen again from the dead." And his disciples asked him, saying, "Why then the scribes that Elijah must come first?" And Jesus answered and said unto them, "Elijah truly shall come first, and to restore all things. But I say unto you that Elijah has already come, and they didn't know him. But they have done unto him whatsoever they listed." Whatever they listed, they done. "Likewise shall also the Son of Man suffer of them?" Then the disciples understood that he was speaking of John the Baptist. And when they were come unto the multitude, came a certain man kneeling down and saying, "Lord, have mercy on my son, for he's a lunatic. So vexed, and oftentimes he falls into the fire and out of the water," fire and water. Now this happens right after this Mount Transfiguration, fire and water. Right after he's transformed, he's not only shining as the sun, like a woman does in Revelation 12. She's clothed with the sun, so sunlight's going to follow her wherever she walks. Jesus was also transfigured this way with the abundance, the peace, the prosperity, the fertility, the wisdom, the spiritual enlightenment. It's an allegory thing, but it was a spiritual thing. And then also, you can also be aware of the appearances. Figuration is an appearance. It's the shape or it's a form. And if somebody would say this is a fig tree generation, it's a representation of when Jesus took the fig and he cursed it for not producing in Israel. Be very aware of false tree of life, false light. That's what this is referring to in the fig tree generation. When you have a fig tree generation versus a Mount Transfiguration, you have to understand what's going on. And this time, Jesus was the one that transformed, transfigured before the eyes of not just those in the spirit, but also those as witnesses on the ground that saw this. All right, so Mark chapter 9. Verse 2 through 8. And this is another account. After 6 days, Jesus took with him Peter, James, and John, and led them into a high mountain apart by themselves, and he was transfigured before them. And his raiment was shining exceedingly white as snow, so no fuller soap on earth can whiten them. So in this, it's saying bright, but also white as snow. John the Revelator talks about the appearance of Christ being white as snow as well, and how they're shining, and how he's shining, the Christ. Doesn't necessarily have to be of metal. the Revelation chapter 1. It says he, and Jesus is he, but he's showing you three right here. Notice it's Elijah and Moses up there with him, but who walks down? It's just Jesus. But you're seeing a trinity of three men. The Christ doesn't have to be limited to just male. The Holy Spirit is both male and female. And the Spirit, it's neither male or female, but it has a particular shape or form. What it would represent is peace, fertility, wisdom, spiritual enlightenment, abundance, and prosperity, and the tree of life. And there are two, just as there are two genders. And Moses appeared, and there appeared unto them Moses and Elijah, and they were talking with Jesus. And Peter answered and said to Jesus, Master, is it good for us to be here? And let us make 3 tabernacles, one for you, one for Moses, one for Elijah. He didn't know what to say, for they were so afraid. And there was a cloud that overshadowed them, and a voice came out of the cloud saying, This is my beloved Son, hear him. And suddenly, when they had looked round about, they saw no man anymore, save Jesus only with themselves. Save Jesus only with themselves. As they came down from the mountain, he charged them that they should tell no man what he saw until the Son of Man was risen from the dead. And they kept that saying with themselves, questioning one another, what is the rising from the dead should mean? And they asked him, saying, Why say the scribe Elijah must come first? And he answered and told them, Elijah verily came first and restored all things, and how it's written of the Son of Man, that he must suffer many things and be set at naught, at nothing. But I say unto you that Elijah is indeed came, and they done whatever they wanted to, whatever they listed of him, they did, as it is written of him. And when he came to his disciples, he saw a great multitude about them, and the scribes questioning them, saying, And straightway all people, when they beheld him, they were greatly amazed. And running him, saluted him. And he asked the scribes, What question you with them? And one of the multitude answered and said, Master, I have brought unto you my son, which has a dumb spirit. Isaiah 53. She, or he, verse 7, will be shaved, it says her, as a sheep before her shearers, that is dumb, and he doesn't open his mouth. So right here it's saying, here's my son, which is dumb. He's a dumb spirit. And whatsoever he takes of them, he tears him, and foams, and gnashes with his teeth, and pinned away. And I spake of my disciples that they should not cast out of him, and they couldn't. He answered him, saying, You faithless generation, how long shall I be with you? How long shall I suffer you? Bring him unto me. Notice, things start to pep up after this transfiguration. He's shining bright as the sun. And there's questions like, hey man, you're really bright with those 3 guys up there on that mountain. Y'all look kind of different. Y'all really shiny up there. That's kind of got it some joy. Not only were you shining, but here comes this other cloud, and it was shining over you. It was really bright. I think we need to make all 3 of you houses. Y'all can't be together like that. And so things are starting to pep up after that Holy Spirit cloud was covering 3 men becoming one. And the physical men, Peter, James, and is it Peter, James, and John? Yeah, Peter, James, and John. They were wanting to make them 3 houses. They didn't want Jesus. They didn't want Jesus to be as one. Okay, they wanted 3 different tabernacles. That's 3 different houses. But there's only 2. There's male and female. There's 2 tabernacles. But when you're talking in another sense, you can tabernacle in a household. And evidently, Jesus was up on that mountain as one. And these men were saying, we're going to, when you come down off this mountain, we're going to make you houses. You're not staying in one house together. Y'all going to be split apart. Y'all can't be like this. Like this, a 3-cord is hard to pull apart. So I thought that was interesting. And now we're going to Luke chapter 9. Luke chapter 9, verse 28 through 36. All right. And it came to pass about an 8th day after these sayings, he took Peter and John. So Luke is saying 8 days. I think there was Matthew and Mark were saying 6. And it came to pass about an 8 days after these sayings, he took Peter and John and James and went up into the mountain to pray. And as he prayed, he fashioned his countenance, the fashion of his countenance was altered, and his raiment was white and glistering. Now this time it looked like 3-eye atlas. It went from yellow, it was glittering, it was strobing. 3-eye atlas was doing something up on the mountain too. It was doing all kinds of stuff. It was a sword. It was an asteroid, it was a comet, it was strobe lights, it was glittering, it was changing colors from pink to blue. It was transfiguring up in the sky, up in the heavenly places. Okay. In Luke's account, Jesus, the fashion of his countenance was altered, and his raiment was white as snow, and it was glistering. And behold, there talked with him 2 men, which were Moses and Elijah, who appeared in glory and spake of his decease, which he should accomplish at Jerusalem. But Peter and they that were with him were heavy with sleep. They were sleepy. When they were awoke, they saw his glory. And 2 men stood with him. And it came to pass that they departed from him. Peter said to Jesus, Master, is it good for us to be here? And let us make 3 tabernacles, one for you, one for Moses, and one for Elijah, not knowing what he said. While Peter was speaking, there came a cloud and overshadowed them. And they feared. They entered into the cloud. Now this is given a little different interpretation in chapter 9 in Luke. They entered into the cloud. And there came a voice out of the cloud saying, This is my beloved Son, hear him. So basically, it looked like God had to get on to them. Like, why are you with? It ain't good for you to be all as one. You need 3 different houses. You can't be in a house together like this. That don't look right. Remember the appearance of figuration. And be careful of false spiritual appearances. But this, that Jesus, after they said that, was a cloud that came, and the cloud said, "Behold, this is my beloved Son, hear him." So the cloud basically had to say, look, y'all listen to what my Son is saying. It's the truth. And then what happened? So, as they were speaking, there came a cloud and overshadowed them, and they feared as they entered into the cloud. And there came a voice out of the cloud, saying, "This is my beloved Son. Hear him." And when the voice was past, Jesus was found alone, and they kept it close, and told no man in those days any of those things which had been seen. Now, in this account, they didn't tell. But in the other 2 accounts, Jesus said not to tell anybody. This account, they didn't tell anybody. And it came to pass that on the next day, would have been the 9th day, when they were come down from the hill, much people had met him. And behold, a man of the company cried out, saying, "Master, I was looking for you upon my son, for he is my only child, and look, a spirit took him." And suddenly cried out, and tearing at him, and foaming again, and bruising him heartily, parted from him. And I besought that I looked for your disciples to cast out this spirit, and they couldn't. Jesus answered, said, "O faithless and perverse generation, how long shall I be with you and suffer you? Bring your son here." So Jesus is with the glory, and he's getting angry. I said pissed off, but Jesus kind of getting angry. It's like, you see the light on me. You see the transfiguration. You see Moses and Elijah in me. I'm walking as one. I know you don't like 3 men in 1 tabernacle. Sorry, but hey, I am carrying the glory of God on me. And then you question it. So my Father has to come in a cloud of witnesses. And he's saying, "This is my beloved Son. Hear him." And now Jesus has got the glory on him. He's got confirmation. He's confirmed the Son of God between 3 witnesses. And now here's one with a sick child that's looking for some deliverance. And Jesus has got the glory, and he's saying, "How long do you look at me with the glory, with the truth? How long will you do this?" And Jesus is suffering because of the people and their disbelief. And that's what the fig tree generation is all about. Many will believe other things, a false light, money, social media, blue beam. They'll believe what people want them to know. But you got the glory standing before you, and something that you fear is speaking and saying, "This is my Son. Listen to him. Hear him." And still, these are the disciples of Jesus that could not do the greater works that Jesus is saying would be on this generation, a fig tree generation. Greater works would be here. So it's going to take some people with faith. And I'm talking hardcore faith. Not a little faith like stupid faith. I mean, it might take some childlike stupid faith. I don't know. I mean, it's going to take something. It may take another plague or pandemic or like massive shakings, fires. I mean, it may take some stuff to start believing for life. And a fig is known as a tree of life. So it may take some Apollo situations, some destroyer situations. You know, Jesus might had to have created a destroyer so that many would wake up and begin to understand the glory and where we come from. And if Jesus is transfigured into three men, why are people looking for the two witnesses when he's right there? He's right here. By spirit, he is here. It's in all of us, right? He's in all of us. Moses and Elijah was up there with him. But one walks down. They're all three together. But the men of this perverse generation is trying to split them apart. Could it be that's a big issue in the world today? When you try to split the house of God, it does not look well. Interesting enough, Satan's camp, they're all together and they have a leader. And each country has a leader, right? And then everybody's running good and everybody's living in prosperity. And then one day, it's boring. So the leaders all band together in these Agenda 20s and this program, that, right? This agent and COP USA and whatever, TP and all these different places, right? They all have their own houses, and now it's all about succession. Who precedes? That's where we're at right now. We're in a fig tree generation. And Jesus calls it, "O faithless and perverse generation, how long shall I be with you and suffer you? Bring your son here." The man of faith, the Son of God, is saying, bring your children over here. And as he was yet coming, the devil threw him down and tear him. And Jesus rebuked the unclean spirit. Notice, unclean spirit was causing all these things. Some translations said it was dumb spirit. But this is foaming out the mouth. This is bruising them, tearing at them. It's doing some pretty, exorcist stuff. But inside of it, Jesus is rebuking what it is. It's an unclean spirit. He rebuked it, and instantly the child was healed and delivered him again to his father. And they were all amazed at the mighty power of God. They saw the Spirit of the Lord as three men on him, overshadowing him. And they're amazed again. But while they were wondering, all the things Jesus did, he said unto his disciples, "Let these things sink down into your ears, for the Son of Man shall be delivered unto the hands of men." Son of Man shall be delivered into the hands of men. But they understood not the saying. And it was hid from them, that they perceived it not, and they feared to ask of him, saying, Luke chapter 9, verse 46, "Then there arose a reasoning among them, which of them should be greatest. And Jesus perceived the thoughts of their heart, took a child, and set him by him, and said unto them, Whosoever shall receive this child in my name receives me. And whosoever shall receive me receives him that sent me. For he that is least among you shall be the same, and shall be great And John answered and said, Master, we saw one casting out devils in your name, and we forbade him, because he followed not with us. And Jesus said unto him, Forbid him not. Don't forsake him. For he that is not against us is for us. So we're talking about the Mount Transfiguration. Trans, right? Trans has a lot of different origins. It means to across. It means to beyond. It means to the other side. Trans. And there's lots of things. Enoch was translated. But I would have said transported made more sense. But he was translated. Probably from this book on out. Translated. And Jesus is saying, if he wasn't walking like you're walking, Peter, but he's speaking things in my name, if they are for us, they're not against us. Now keep in mind, all these things that happen was Jesus rebuking his own house, his own disciples, with unbelief, his own people that saw him. Unbelief is what's destroying the nation. It's in your household. If you're walking with the glory and your fellow servants or your fellow sister and brothers or your fellow friends or your loved ones or whoever's in your house, if you're a church and you're doing the great works and but people disbelieve you and discredit you and dishonor you and put you to shame for what you are doing in Jesus' name, that's why our generation is being destroyed. It's called a perverse generation. That. And that's what's known as the fig tree generation when it comes to Mount Transfiguration. Y'all have a good day.